Alright, so week 4, this is Tuesday, day 7, September 17th. Tech Club, have a meeting next Tuesday. Let me know if there's items for the agenda that you want on there. We'll look to see Mesa City IT is interested in some volunteer work. We'll see if any of that matches up with what we're doing in class. Okay. Network Essentials. We reviewed connecting locally. We talked a little bit about addressing OSI mod. We did not get this far, but we'll cover that on Thursday. We'll compare them. And we did some lab work. Let's take a look. We got a couple more slides. We took a look at a couple applications. Putty, we puttied into a server. Talk a little more about a browser. So the application layer hooks in to an actual app. We present the data. We used the example in Putty. We used SSH, which is secured shell, so it's getting encrypted, right? We're going to present the data. It's going to be encrypted. Set up a session between the two ends. Let's just say this is a web server over here. Right? That could be our application. Then we figure out how we're going to transport the data. So our data, here's our data, gets split up into segments. Split up into segments. Okay? And then how we're going to transport. More on that later. Then let's get a little different color here. Oh, in fact, let's do this. So our data comes down, and here's our data. And then what we do is we encapsulate that with an IP address, and we create a packet. So now we have the IP addresses in here. We're going to look at that on Thursday. And then that comes down to the data link layer. Here we call it a frame. And in this case, I'll use another color, we add the MAC address. So we take all of that, make a frame out of it, and put the MAC addresses here. IP addresses are in here. Up here we created the segment, which is in here, which is the actual data. This whole process here is called encapsulation. Then we send it, and if it goes through, let's say, the internet, it actually goes up, checks the IP address, comes back, sends it to the next device, IP address, come back. Kind of looks like a wavelength. Anyway, gets over here, physical layer takes off, right? Takes off the MAC addressing, or now it puts it up here, and up here we take off the MAC address, then we take off the IP address, we check how is it being transmitted, session, then eventually it ends up here at the actual data, ends up here to the web server, and then it repeats the process and sends a reply back to us. All the way up to if it was Putty or a browser or whatever we're using to connect. So we have some information here. Excuse me. So we have some information here. Let's run through this. We have Linux, Apache web server. We have a private address on campus that matches this public address you would use off of campus. This is the address. Okay? Private address, public address. So if you're at home and you were going to connect in, the password would be the same. And if you remember, it's your last name with a cap and your first initial with a cap. And you would use the public address, and then that would get it to here. And then NIAC knows that that public address goes this way, not this way. The firewall sees it, and in the firewall it gets converted back to a private address, and it's allowed to go through. Get it? And when it hits the firewall lets it go down in on the DMZ. Doesn't let it go into the main network, it lets it go to the DMZ, and then that's where this web server is sitting, down in this DMZ. We call it work server 2. And then it would respond, you know, come back out, go to your house or the coffee shop or wherever you're connected in at. Alright, and then during class we did some work and we connected in on a different network. And this is a little more complex how it works, but we actually were on a different network than the regular network. We had a separate switch here that communicates to the main switch, which then allows us in and out all the way to the internet. So the first thing we're going to do when you get to class is you're going to get this set up just like we did the last time. Okay. That is it for today.